Imagine yourself in a harsh day in the cold and windy jungles of Poland. You haven't eaten for days and you have to work to survive, or else you are beaten to death. There are not enough clothes to wear and nothing to keep you warm. It has been 3 years since you were free. There is no liberty or dignity, no choice, and you are as worthless and defenseless as a sheep to the guards. You are inside a German death camp in the end of World War II. And every day you just keep asking yourself, why am I alive? What is the meaning of life? What keeps a human being alive in such situation? What will keep you alive for the next moment? Viktor Frankl was one of the many people taken to the German death camps. What he talks about mostly happened in small camps, where most of the real extermination took place. He was not a hero, and he didn't tell a story of the fallen army of heroes, but it is more about the sacrifice and of the army of the unknown and unrecorded victims, where they were referred as numbers and stripped of all their identities and remembered just as a number. There was no time nor the desire to consider the moral or ethical issues. Every man was controlled only by one thought: to keep himself alive for his family that is waiting for him and to save his friends. With no hesitations, therefore, he would arrange for another prisoner, another number to take his place, even knowing that other person had to be sacrificed. As he said, we who have come back by the aid of many lucky chances or miracles, whatever one may choose to call them, we know the best of us didn't return. The truth is that as the struggle for the survival has subsided, the question has emerged: survival for what? Even more people today have the means to live, but no means to live for. In his book, Frankl gives readers a narrative of his time in the camps. He is focused on explaining how the daily struggles of the camp life affected the mental state of its inmates. The core of Frankl's philosophy is that a man's deepest desire is to find meaning in his life. If you know your why, you can deal with any how. Viktor Frankl concluded in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, there is always meaning in suffering. Frankl found meaning in his experiences in the concentration camp by deciding that he was going to use his suffering as an opportunity to make himself a better person. Instead of becoming apathetic and accepting that he was doomed, he chose to embrace his suffering. According to Frankl, while a man's destiny in life is certainly affected by the circumstances in which he finds himself, he is ultimately free to choose his own path in life. Even in the worst situation possible, man always has the freedom to choose his attitude towards life. Instead of becoming apathetic and accepting that he was doomed, he chose to embrace his suffering. If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Suffering is an eradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. Frankl and his fellow prisoners had everything stripped from them: their families, friends, jobs, health, possessions, even their names and the hair on their bodies. But there was one thing that remained truly their own. It is what Stoic philosophers refer to as our inner discourse or guiding principle. Namely, we get to choose how to react to any given thought, emotion, or set of circumstances. No matter what life experience we confront, we always have the inner freedom to decide our attitude and to remain true to our character and duty. Frankl observed that those prisoners who survived, who found a way to endure, always had a greater purpose that carried them onward through difficult conditions. For some, it was a child who was sheltered away in some distant country and who was waiting for them upon liberation. For others, it was a spouse or a family member or an unfinished task or creative work that required their unique contribution. Frankl and his friends were constantly on watch for fellow prisoners who lost their purpose for life. The prisoner who had lost faith in the future, his future was doomed.
With his loss of belief in the future, he also lost his spiritual hold. He let himself decline and become subject to mental and physical decay. He concluded, a man who becomes conscious of his responsibility he bears towards a human being who efficiently waits for him or to unfinished work will never be able to throw away his life. He knows the wife or his existence will be able to bear almost anyhow. When he was working in the doctor's office in the camp, he noticed a spike in the death of people near Christmas. As Christmas came, more and more people lost hope, going back to their homes, seeing their loved ones. That's when the death spiked. Frankl concludes that there is no general answer to the meaning of life. Each person must answer the question for themselves. We find our unique own meaning based on our circumstances, our relationships, and our experiences. Life is essentially testing us, and the answer is revealed in how we respond. We need to stop asking about the meaning of life and instead think of ourselves as those who are being questioned by life, daily and hourly. Our answer must consist not in talk and meditation, but in right action and right conduct. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answers to its problems and to fulfill the tasks which it constantly sets for each individual. Therefore, the meaning of life is not found on some mountaintop. Rather, it is revealed daily and hourly in our choice to take the right action and to perform our duties and responsibilities. As he was walking in the jungles of Poland in the harsh winter, he looked up and saw the sun rising. For a moment he gathered his thoughts, looked at the beautiful sun, and remembered his wife. At that moment he realized that he hasn't spoken to his wife during these 3 years. He remembered the soft touches, her eyes, and the feeling of love he wrote in his book. I didn't know whether my wife was alive and I had no means of finding out. But at that moment I ceased to matter. There was no need for me to know. Nothing could touch the strength of my love, my thoughts, and the image of my beloved. Had I known then that my wife was dead, I think that I would still have given myself undisturbed by that knowledge to the contemplation of her image, and that my mental conversation with her would have been just as vivid, just as satisfying.